I grew up in South Carolina.
Born and raised?
Born and raised.
You were really young at that point. Do you have any idea what you want to do with the rest of your life?
You know, I'll tell you what, I always wanted to be an artist from the time I was little.
Artist in drawing and creating, or artist in being in like movies and productions?
When I was young, I always wanted to draw, create, paint, maybe be a designer, and that's what I did before I got into porn. I was living my childhood dream, painting and making art for a living, and I was doing well, but I was getting into this side life, this kind of underground of sex parties, and I found a new dream, and now I'm doing that.
I'm guessing that you were not an exhibitionist growing up?
You know, I was always an exhibitionist. I always really wanted attention. I just didn't really get it very well, and I didn't feel very confident. So I always wanted to be looked at, but I was never confident to be looked at. I had fantasies all the time that were basically about being a stripper. I would fantasize about dancing sexy in front of all my friends, especially all my guy friends, and having them look at me with desire, but I didn't think that was something I could actually have or someone I could actually be, but I thought about it all the time.
Growing up, did you watch adult material?
Oh, I definitely watched porn growing up. Actually, the first time was because of a boyfriend of mine. I didn't really look up much porn on my own, but I squirted with a guy I was seeing, and I was so embarrassed. And I was completely mortified and inconsolable until he looked up porn and told me that people liked it and showed me that it was a desirable thing, because I was just so embarrassed. I thought the whole time that I had been like wetting the bed when I masturbated.
How do you make the transition then from college to working in the adult industry?
Well, if you're me, you finish college, you get a job working in your field immediately, and after a year you get laid off, and then you hitchhike around the West Coast, and then you move to Brooklyn, and you live there making art for a living and going to sex parties on the weekends. And then you think, gosh, you know, I love painting, but these sex parties are really the highlight of my life now. And then you start thinking, how could I do that for a living? And then you call a porn agent, and then you're here.
The agent you went with, was the pitch given that you become a big star, or that you would work a lot, or you'd have flexibility?
You know, I know agents promise a lot of different things when they give you a pitch, but what I was looking for was someone who was willing to work with an out-of-state model and someone who seemed like they would be sympathetic to my needs. So I actually chose my agent based on them being someone who had been a performer.
First scene, boy girl, girl girl?
My first scene was Reality Kings Hot Bush. It was a boy girl with Tony Rubino. And I was so excited. I was about to jump out of my shorts. Like, I could not believe I was there. I was over the moon. I was so hyperactive in between shots. I can't believe that they put up with me.
You do your first scene. Mm-hmm. At what point does this become a career for you?
Well, I kept this as a side gig for my first couple years in the industry. I'd say my first 2 years in the industry, the adult business was a side gig. I worked in the arts in New York, and then occasionally I'd come out to Los Angeles and do some scenes, have some fun, have some sex, make some money, and then head back to New York. Then finally I realized I was doing two things halfway. I was sort of half-assing porn, and I was sort of half-assing my art, juggling between the two on these different coasts, and I had to pick one. And I chose having orgasms for money because that seems like a no-brainer.
Did you get involved with APAC?
I got involved with APAC because I was active in the fight against Prop 60 and would frequently go up to the Bay Area anytime they needed people to go speak at an OSHA hearing, because they wanted folks who would sound educated and well-spoken, who could talk about issues affecting the performer population. And since I was interested in doing that, I went several times. And the leadership of APAC encouraged me to run for a board position because they saw how passionate I was. And so here I am now, vice president, making a lot of programs happen. I also chair our fundraising subcommittee, and I run our peer-to-peer mentorship program, which I'm very excited to announce is launching its first group of mentors and mentees this month.
And you have a preference between being a sub or dom?
I don't really have a strong preference between being a sub or a dom. I mildly prefer to be dominant because I know what I like and I know I'll do it right. But if I've got someone who's a good dom, I really like to be pushed because I like to show how tough I am. I like to be a badass.
Are you on any platforms like I Want Empire?
Currently, my own work that I own is available through I Want Empire. So I've got I Want Custom Clips, I've got I Want Clips, I've got I Want Phone, and my subscription fan service, which is sort of like a subscription Snapchat where there's a ton of stories and behind the scenes, is also I Want Fan Club.
The I Want Phone, is that like a Skype type of thing where you do one-on-one?
It's one-on-one phone sex, actually, just straight up phone.
And what was the craziest request you got for that?
Oh man, I'd say my most popular sessions for things like my phone are a lot of humiliation, because on I Want I do domination, and I'm really good at verbally decimating people and telling them that they're nothing. So if that's what someone wants to hear, I tend to do a good job, so I get a lot of requests for that.
The I Want clips, are those strictly custom clips, or are they just produced for everyone to look at?
I Want clips, I release one clip a day with some kind of femdom or goddess content. And not all of it is mean, like what I just described. I'm not always humiliating a guy. Sometimes it's just something like foot worship or ass worship, something more sensual like that. So even if you're not someone who's really into domination, you may find things in my store that turn you on. Things where I'm talking about doing some kind of cuckolding. Things where I'm talking about how I want you to worship my ass and shove your face in it. And I'm not saying anything mean to you. I'm just telling you about my ass and showing it to you. So even if you're not into femdom, it's worth taking a look around. There might be something you like. The clips run anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes, depending on what's in them.
Fan Club, is that a package thing where you get a bunch of stuff? Is that...
I Want Fan Club is a lot like a subscription Snapchat, except that it also includes the ability to send messages. I'm able to post videos and pictures, all behind the scenes footage. Some of it's hardcore and some of it's just good morning videos or pictures of the behind the scenes of my life. So it's very cool.
How did you get involved with I Want Empire?
I Want Empire reached out to me through my agent because they were looking to expand from being a femdom only platform into being porn star friendly. And they wanted a spokesmodel with a lot of social media reach and who could do femdom as well as porn. And they did a little audition with me where they saw how I could dirty talk, and they saw my social media following and how I comport myself on there, and they thought I was a good fit.
How much different are you than the person people see on camera? How much of this is an act?
None of it is an act. When I go and I fuck someone on camera and I make it filthy and good and nasty, every part of that is every ounce of my being. That is me, pure and animalistic, and I hope that that comes across in the camera. I want to bring something real and raw to people. Even if it's got a hokey plot line, I want the sex to be 100% real all the time with everything I can give you. And that's why I think fans respond to me, because I'm giving you a piece of myself every single fucking time. It's not an act, it's me.
On social media, what are your Twitter handles and Instagram and all that?
You can find me on Twitter at RileyRayXXX. That's RILEYREYXXX. And if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Riley_loves_sex.
8-pack aside, you as an established performer, do you feel the established performers like yourself, in a sense, have an obligation to help the next generation of performers?
I absolutely think that established performers have an obligation to give back to the community. I know not everybody feels that way, but I think that it's important to leave something better than how you found it, regardless of what that thing is. It includes the adult industry. You have a responsibility as someone who spends time in a community to leave things better than when you found it. Clean house. Try to make things nice. Create systems that'll help people. Talk to folks. Support them. Make the world a better place in whatever world you live in, even if that world is, you know, gaping holes on camera.